Let's part and parcel. Let's just, yeah, we're definitely having some gremlins this morning, guys. Our streaming service that we put out live on LinkedIn appears to be misbehaving at the moment. But anyway, we've got the guys here on Zoom and some of the other channels. So welcome to the Growth Show, guys. Hey, Emmett, how are you doing? How's things?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah, all good, all good. Thank you. Yeah, very good. So I think just while we keep an eye on that, for whatever reason, it's misbehaving. So I think we'll just crack on. So we've got a pretty packed show today, guys. For those of you new, obviously, format is we kind of bounce around a few news stories that kind of interested us right over the week, and then we've got a bit of a deep dive today. I'm buzzed about the deep dive today because I know nothing about it. So we've deliberately kind of kept me in the dark, right, as far as this report that we've done on a bit of content that we produced.
Yeah, I think more than sort of just keeping you in the dark. I think it's a live project at the moment. So actually really excited to share some results. And yeah, kind of like, I guess, really kind of relay the results of a year-long project. And I think, in the digital space, a year is a long time.
Yeah, huge.
So yeah, I mean, obviously we'll be talking about, the fact that our team sort of created and published an article every single day last year.
Yeah.
And we'll obviously be sharing the results of that today in terms of, what was the kind of net impact of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited. I've seen the data, and yeah, just really buzzed about it.
Fantastic, good stuff. So just while we kind of wait for people to join, welcome guys. Seeing some new people dropping in. What's kind of caught your eye this week?
Yeah, I think the interesting one is typically not my kind of area that I'd bring up, but the Super Bowl.
Right.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Andrew's our kind of resident sort of American football geek,
fan, right? Yeah, so, that's it. Yeah,
stays up at all hours of the night watching games and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
But, yeah, I mean, look, I mean, I didn't watch it.
No,
obviously, I'm
standard.
I'm not
3:30 local time. Everyone, that's yeah.
Yeah. So what were your kind of thoughts on it? Because I've kind of, from my angle of things, I've found an interesting.
Yeah, I think the Super Bowl is always interesting. Obviously, the game itself, but the kind of pre-show, big talk about halftime, and like a huge part that we always kind of touch on is advertising. The kind of Super Bowl ads that you see, they spend millions on producing. Yeah, that's not going to be working today. Okay. Yeah, just to give you a heads up. So there's millions that are spent on these Super Bowl ads, and obviously a lot of the time comedy based. You got the kind of famous ones like Doritos and some of that. I just think what was probably the best ad this year was massively creative in its simplicity, and it was basically, bearing in mind you're paying millions for screen time. Okay. It was a green screen, came up, and then there was just a QR code bouncing around like Pong style, with a kind of little 80s track in the background. And I kind of I grabbed my phone. I was like, right, where does this go? Right, I want to know. Ran over to the TV, grabbed it, and it took me to Coinbase, right? So crypto trading. Okay. And I mean, look, basically, that was the ad, right? And at the very end, it kind of popped up with Coinbase, but I'd already opened it. Apparently, it crashed their servers. It was so popular. Wow. So I think there was a bit of a shift. There's always alcohol, cars, snacks. This year there was alcohol, car, snacks, but there was also crypto. There was also metaverse. There was kind of definitely speaking to I guess a different type of audience, right? In the advertising space, something like a crypto platform, a couple of FX trading platforms, things that we've seen obviously rising. So yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, that's what that was my kind of piece on it. I think it was cool, but that was probably the best. I mean, there's some hilarious ads as well, but that was the best one from a marketing perspective. I thought really resonated with the audience and crashed it. I mean, crashed as ever.
I mean, first and foremost, I mean, cloud-based stuff shouldn't really crash. I mean, so
no, weird, right?
I think someone's probably going to lose their job on the back of it. I think the other thing is, I think that's, I mean, just from sort of reading some articles and stuff afterwards, Yeah, everyone was saying this just seemed to be a massive sort of shift towards sort of crypto businesses, and which is definitely a sign, I think, of kind of what's happening kind of around us. And I think sort of related, the thing that caught my eye was I've been spending quite a bit of time in the metaverse.
Yep.
As you know, so what was quite cool is I stumbled upon a Miller Lite bar which was set up for the Super Bowl.
Amazing.
So went inside the bar.
Yeah.
ID check on the door.
Perfect.
So had to kind of show that I was over 21.
Yeah. I mean, you barely look it in the metaverse, but
my character in the metaverse is a little bit weird. However, so ID check on the door, walk inside, and that was the only place that you could see the big game Miller Lite advert. Right? Yeah. So basically, as you're walking around the bar, you can sort of play pool. There's a pinball machine. There's like a few fridges where you can basically go in and help yourself to some Miller Lite cans.
Nice.
And there was a function where you can just drink it. It was bizarre. But then you kind of sit on a stool, have a look at the big screens. Like you wouldn't.
Kind of in a normal bar. Yeah.
And then the ad starts playing. So I mean, it was quite cool. And again, just obviously this stuff fascinates me at the moment in terms of what
Jenny Wings.
Well, this is the point. It wasn't a food menu, but just the fact that you got other people in the bar, and you can go and have a conversation.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, it was like really kind of interesting. But yeah, I think this is definitely the way kind of things are going, and next year, I'll be good to see if that kind of shift sort of continues, right?
Yeah.
Sort of from cars through to now real kind of digital assets,
exactly,
the metaverse. And I think that's really interesting.
And also the rise of QR code again, right? It's nuts. How that's kind of gone from something that was kind of old hat, and then now it's just it's that connection, right? To kind of driving people. Cool. What else caught your attention?
I think what's interesting at the moment that I've seen is what's happening with Peloton. So the really interesting company just grew significantly during COVID and lockdown because people wanted to kind of work out, and there was that social aspect to it. You got like that instructor on the screen, all that kind of stuff. And they did kind of really well, but then they had obviously a couple of sort of technical issues with the bikes, and then pretty much I think since the world's kind of opened up, they've just faced all sorts of different challenges, right? So from sort of distribution issues, the safety issues related to some of this stuff. As stock prices tumbled, I mean, like 80% at one point down on its peak,
right?
In 12 months, which is significant. I mean, there was some hype that was sort of built into the price. New CEO just been announced, and so it's just a company that, despite being in a really kind of huge kind of growth sector, in terms of health tech and the focus right now, which is on sort of health and wellness and all that kind of stuff around the world. I mean, you'd think this company's kind of really primed and really kind of well positioned to take advantage of that. But I think look, they're saying that they want to kind of figure it out themselves and go down their own path and sort of create that. I just get a feeling that they're massively vulnerable at the moment, and it wouldn't surprise me if someone like an Amazon or an Apple or someone like that. And I think we spoke about this maybe a year ago. But I think this kind of feels like a pretty good
acquisition point.
Fit potentially. So and I think the stock price on the back of basically and Nike apparently interested in sniffing around. But apparently on the back of all of this, the stock price has started rising again. But just a really kind of interesting business. I think you kind of look at it and say, look, even though companies are in the right space at the right time, a few kind of challenges can really kind of set businesses back. And I just I thought I'd just mention it today because I think it's one to keep an eye on.
No, that's good. It's good. I think you see a lot of other options now, right? Aside from Peloton. Right. So there kind of a few other players have entered the market, not just in the kind of bike space, but you've got LeBron James is now advertising some workout, piece attached to the wall and stuff. You've also got Lululemon with their interactive mirror. I think Amazon would probably be the best acquisition fit, I reckon, just with their Alexa and kind of integrating into that whole network, and then buying, you know, workout gear and from your Peloton and stuff like that. I think that'd be pretty cool, right? Yeah, no, interesting, cool. Shall we jump in? I think we've got pretty much people. Yeah, it's well, there's still a couple of people actually rolling in, but I think we should crack on.
Okay, cool. Yeah, of course. So yeah, so the main topic today, I guess, is, like I said, it's always nice when you're talking about your own kind of experiments and your own data. I know we pull a lot of kind of market research from sort of other places as sort of topics of inspiration. But yeah, this one started, I'd say, let's go back to 2020, probably, I don't know, November.
Okay.
Right, when we first started kind of talking about this. So just over sort of, 13, 14 months ago.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of you guys know we produce a lot of content, whether it's through,
this
kind of webinar,
yeah,
or whether it's kind of written content. And
yeah,
the written content side of it, I think, is something that we've been quite aggressive on for a while. But to the point, I think it was during COVID, first sort of lockdown,
just double down on it.
we just decided, okay, we've probably got a little bit more time because we weren't traveling, and we were, kind of being probably more efficient with Zoom calls and stuff. And so we really started kind of aggressively creating more written content and blog articles and things like that, ebooks and stuff like that. Really kind of interesting. And we've always seen an impact on that, both in terms of website traffic, both in terms of our own kind of SEO performance, and where our kind of website ranks. And then the other piece is really just the business that's been generated on the back of it.
Yeah.
So talking to two of our writers, and I think we were, I'd say, fortunate, but it was obviously not really fortunate. We kind of did this on purpose, but we, during that period when we said, okay, well, look, if we know this works for us, what we should be doing is really kind of maybe not even doubling down, but really tripling down, right? How do we get more aggressive in terms of the content we create? So we hired two full-time writers, Shannon and Tony, and literally, they were tasked to just keep producing good quality content, which is all about sort of digital. It's all about, following our kind of, I don't know, philosophy, which is, create content that's educational. Someone should always
valuable,
kind of learn from what they read. With takeaways and all that kind of stuff in there. But we need to do it at volume, right? And again, the impact of that was pretty significant. And so we said, okay, well, let's kind of look at this and let's see what we can do if we really kind of aggressively do this. Let's now really start to kind of measure it. Let's create an experiment. Let's take in some of the kind of theoretical elements behind this. Couple that with some of the practical elements that we've seen that's had an impact on the business, and let's kind of look at it in a year's time. And so the challenge was really kind of straightforward, in a sense that, basically the girls were tasked with creating and publishing one blog article every single day in 2021. Right. No holidays, no weekends. I mean, no kind of breaks, right?
Just to clarify, they had weekends.
They had weekends.
They had weekends.
They were organized. So basically, they were working normal hours.
Multiple blogs.
But the idea definitely was, look, let's not kind of lose focus on this. Let's not skip a day, right? Let's make sure that we're publishing this content, and the overall goal was producing 365 articles in 365 days. Right. And so that's basically what happened. And what we thought about, aside from all the the business benefits and potential benefits that we may see on the back of this, actually we just thought it was a really cool experiment. Right. Because we talk about this a lot, right? And when we're kind of speaking to clients, we're saying, look, you really need to have fresh content on your website. You need to be publishing frequently. You need to be sort of sharing knowledge. You need to kind of position yourselves as kind of thought leaders.
Exactly.
And these are conversations that we have with, I'd say, the majority of our clients, very kind of frequently. And a lot of them take it on board, and there's some that say, look, I just don't know whether this works, right? So we thought, again, this is kind of us, I'd say, sort of practicing sort of what we preach. Right? Probably on steroids a little bit, but I think it's important to do that, right? And so really that was it. I guess those were the reasons.
Dynamics.
We had the resources, so we'd allocated resources
Yeah.
for it. It was a cool experiment piece. And then actually a couple of other points. Is that why has he left the door open?
I don't know.
Amazing.
It's amazing. One of our guys just came in on a live recording and shut the door. Shut the door. Okay, sorry guys. We don't. That's always fun, isn't it? During a live recording for someone to come in.
Yeah, we're in a soundproof studio, which doesn't become soundproof.
No, it doesn't become soundproof. No.
So apologies for that.
Sorry, guys.
But yeah, a couple of other reasons as to why we kind of do this is, firstly, I'd say throughout the length and sort of time of this business, the best quality leads that we've ever generated are organic leads.
Yeah.
Right. Where someone's kind of searching for a topic or searching for a service provider, they find our content.
Yeah.
And then whenever those leads kind of, turn into, or whenever those kind of visitors been turned into a lead.
That's right.
The quality of those leads is significantly higher than sort of paid campaigns and things
Exactly.
like that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's an important point. So again, anything that we do in terms of experiment, which allows us to generate better quality leads, is obviously a bit of a tick box in terms.
Exactly.
And then the last kind of piece to this, and again, we wanted to kind of again test this is compound marketing. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Wow, we haven't used that term for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is something that we
you invented.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Let's not be about the bush.
Yeah.
You invented it.
I think I've still got the domain actually.
Amazing.
But anyway, so we were like, look, compound marketing. This was basically
on the back of it was the positioning was when we were talking about the value of organic search versus paying Google advertising.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it was basically
that inflection point, right?
Yeah, totally right. So the idea was, and it was a model that was kind of created that highlights the power of organic content.
Yep.
And how basically the more content you create, the compounding effect it has.
Exactly.
So like compound interest, but compounded
in the marketing world. Yeah.
And the idea being that if you generate enough content on a kind of frequent basis, basically the value of all of that content increases over time.
Exactly.
Right? So it does kind of make sense. And then the overall benefit of that is actually by doing that, you reduce your reliance on paid advertising significantly.
Yeah.
Especially on Google. So in terms of a like for like advertising.
Yeah.
Right. So less so much on social, but from a Google standpoint, you suddenly don't need to buy so much traffic because you're getting a lot of traffic coming in.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was kind of, again, it was just a nice opportunity to kind of bring compound marketing back in, because it was very cool. I mean, like the data and things like that we can produce on the back of that model was really strong. So that was kind of why.
Yep.
Yeah. And then again, when we were kind of so what we're doing, guys, actually is we're creating a white paper on this, and there's going to be some more sort of content that's created.
This is the teaser.
Yeah. So kind of what did we hope to achieve? And again, when we're kind of setting these kind of objectives and sort of goals, I think it's really important to just keep these, kind of very kind of realistic, very kind, where you can sort of manage those, where you can measure it.
Yeah.
One of the goals could just be simply as like making sure we do this, right?
Yeah.
But so that kind of, that kind of kept us aligned. But when we wanted to really kind of look at, okay, really, what did we want to get out of this? Very kind of obviously was one of the first is like just in making sure that there was an increase in organic traffic to the website.
Yeah.
Okay? So first and foremost, just make sure that we continue to
need to
grow
see
our
that
traffic,
lift. Yeah.
Okay. Without paying for it. So just pure focus on organic.
Yeah.
Okay. But again, all of this content that we published, sat in our blog, but we didn't want just the blog to increase, right?
No.
So we wanted to kind of measure the impact and say, okay, well, look, if we do add this much content on the blog, does it have an impact on the overall traffic to the website? Yeah. So we wanted to measure two things. So the first is, do we get more blog traffic? And then secondly, does that have an impact on the website traffic?
Yep.
Okay. The second element is actually by creating, say, 365 new articles, what we didn't want to do was compromise the hundreds of articles that we'd written in the past.
700 or something like that.
Yeah. So we've got, I don't know, the best part is over 1,000 articles in there now, right? Yeah. but basically those, 600-700 articles that
Yeah.
we've written in the past, and not the previous year or anything, but this is like 5, 6, 7 years worth of work. What we didn't want to do was compromise that.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no point focusing on new traffic if your old traffic kind of goes, because then you're just replacing it, right? And that's not easy, because the way the Google algorithms work and things like that, we've got to be very kind of careful that we're not cannibalizing content.
Duplicating things.
And
Exactly.
Duplication, stuff like that. So there's some challenges with that. And we'll
Google Smart, they pick up on that.
Yeah. And then the other thing we wanted to do is really kind of focus on topic clusters.
Okay.
And what this is if you kind of, just to break it down a bit, I don't know, if we choose a topic which is social media, for example.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've got, right, we're going to write all about social media. So your kind of cluster is, or your main sort of topic cluster is social. But then you start to kind of create almost like a bit of a map of all the different types of content
under social. Yeah.
That's linked to social.
Yeah.
Right. So very simply, it could be, right, what are the main social media platforms?
Yeah, what are the new platforms?
Right,
what are they,
exactly. What are the new
How do
ones?
I monetize it? Yeah.
Right. How do I run ads? How do I run campaigns?
Yeah.
How do I engage with audiences? Right.
Yeah.
And so you end up then with a very kind of strong group or cluster of articles around a single topic.
Yes.
Yeah. And then with some sort of clever backlinking and stuff like that between the articles, what you tend to get is almost like a bit of a library, and Google understands how that works, right? So they're going in there and saying, actually, this website here seems to have so much information on social media that actually we need to start to rank everything that they talk about from social media, because, it's original content, it's unique in every way. But it's educational, right? People are learning and people are spending time on it.
Like you said, I mean, this wasn't a content for content's sake project.
Yeah, we had to maintain the quality
exactly
throughout. So the topic cluster was an important piece. And then the other thing that we wanted to do was kind of just make sure that, compared to sort of previous data we had, we wanted kind of higher engagement. So we wanted more people to kind of spend time engaging with the content. Okay. And then what we also wanted to do was lower the bounce rates. And one of the challenges you have with blog articles, for example, is your bounce rates are typically higher because someone's searching for something specific.
They land
on that page, they get the answers, and then kind of they leave. Right?
Okay. Yep.
And so we wanted to kind of just see, look, just through creating more content, more topic clusters. Could we actually, just increase that engagement? Yeah, so that was it. And then the last kind of, so we had 5 objectives. The 5th was we want to increase contacts and leads, right?
Yeah.
Because like I said, organic traffic generates best quality.
Gives us a better conversion. Exactly.
Yeah. And so really that was the kind of, 5 key objectives there.
Yeah.
And then, I think it's really kind of important to kind of talk about the challenges, because when you do kind of engage in some sort of experiment like this, I mean, 365 articles is a lot of articles.
It's a ton.
Okay? And a lot of time has gone into it. So if you imagine you're spending, I don't know, 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day on one article, you're talking about probably 2,000 hours or so that's gone into this. So there's some real kind of challenges that sort of come with this. And I think it's important to kind of address those, because like I said, us doing it ourselves potentially saves clients sort of headaches and hassle, because we know what these challenges are, right?
Yeah.
But I think one of those, very kind of, again, pretty obvious, I guess, is how do you kind of maintain motivation and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I think that's where the kind of objectives come in. But actually, look, if we do manage to get through the year, with this activity, there was some kind of results and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
To look forward to.
It's not just like a pat on the back. There's real value attached to it. Yeah.
How do you kind of maintain interest, right? Which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
And it's not just maintaining interest in terms of, internal interest, but, in terms of, the fact that you're publishing so much content.
Yeah.
How do you keep it interesting for the readers? Their quality piece as well, right? So how do you kind of maintain quality when you're producing anything?
Such volume. Yeah.
But especially when you're creating sort of written content.
Yeah.
And then the other kind of normal pressures, right? Because we're all humans and we all kind of, we're part of an agency, which typically means that you know, when we've got client commitments, and every now and then there's
Yeah.
more workload and stuff like that comes in.
And usually our stuff gets pushed to the back burner.
Exactly. And the reason why we hired dedicated writers in the first place was because we had writers who never had time to write for us. Right?
True.
It
Very
was
true.
always client work. So we wanted to make sure that, you know, that was there. But again, even throughout the year, we got busy at certain times when we needed Tony and Shannon's help, and so they were taken away from this, but still sort of managed it. And again, these are kind of very, very real kind of, you know, life work pressures, and obviously things like, you know, holidays and vacations and stuff needed to happen. So you know, so there's kind of planning around that as well. But then I thought, you know, it might be good to share what our focus was in terms of the types of content we created. And I think we should probably reference again Marcus Sheridan here, who we kind of probably talk about more than anyone else on our show. You're a bit of a hero of ours, but basically, you know, hero, good friend, and actually a really strong ally for Nexa. He, you know, he's kind of done this tried and tested model of creating content, and if you guys aren't aware of him, you know, check him out. He's the kind of pool guy, as he likes to call himself, but he's kind of much more than that. But anyway, what he's kind of identified through his, you know, his kind of work and research and stuff like that are kind of, you know, the big five in terms of the topics, right? Do you remember what those were?
No.
Do you want to take a stab?
No, I didn't know you were going to ask me. Sorry.
I know.
No, I'm hungover. No, go on. I don't know.
So, cost and pricing.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Is the first. So he's basically saying that whenever you kind of address things like costs and, you know, how much and all that kind of stuff, that type of content typically flies, because people will go onto Google and start searching those questions, right? How much does this cost? What's the cost of this? Because, you know, that's obviously a very kind of real consideration. I
want to talk about that one specifically.
Okay. You find that way.
Yeah. I was thinking about something else, guys. Sorry, that's why I got a bit of a sidebar there. But this was, so I saw Marcus Sheridan at the Social Media Examiner World, probably may have been 9 years ago, and he was kind of keynote at that time.
Nice.
And what was interesting is, if you haven't obviously had an opportunity to see Marcus speak, it doesn't matter how big the room is, he's wildly interactive with the room. So he kind of will go in the crowd, ask questions, and that was the question at the time. Not one person was talking about price on any of their material on their website. He's like, "What's the number one question you get asked? How much is it? Does anyone talk about it?" And everyone's like, "No." And he goes, "Why don't you talk about it?" "Oh, because we're different." And when he's like, No. Right. He goes, "Yeah, it's not about that, right? Yeah. Oh, we can't give a price because everyone, no. So he's like, and that would obviously, that when it came into, you know, they ask you answer, right? So yeah, sorry, it was just a bit of a sidebar, but that kind of light bulb moment was huge, you know, kind of talking about price. And actually, I mean, that was our first ever piece of content we wrote, right? How much does the website cost?
Not one of, wasn't.
No, on the back of that, I mean,
yeah, we definitely. And actually, we've written a lot of content based on price and cost and stuff.
Exactly.
Like that. Actually, and all of that stuff really kind of does well.
Yeah.
And the other, I mean, say number two is like problems. So like talking about problems that you know, your clients are potentially having.
Yeah.
So how do you address those?
Yeah.
Or, you know, prospects are having, you know, an issue.
Yeah. Doing X.
Right. So how do you kind of help them with that?
Exactly.
Comparisons are good.
Yeah.
So, you know, any kind of comparison pieces of content, you know, and again, you can sort of even do a comparison piece on your own industry. We've done that, and it's been really successful.
Yeah.
And then the kind of best of lists and stuff like that. So
top fives, all that kind of stuff.
Best in class, best
practices,
exactly. And then the last piece is reviews. You know, so if you're kind of reviewing
reviews,
right. So again, you know, there's a new social media platform out there. Doing a review on that, you know, typically brings in quite large.
Yeah.
Right. So there is, you know, so again, we had some sort of, you know, principles or guiding principles, I guess. You know, when we were kind of,
it wasn't just a random kind of talk through. Yeah.
So you know, we kind of you know, had that to help us. But I think let's kind of focus on the results, because we got about another, say, 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
But actually, the whole experiment, I think, you know, success first and foremost, you know, the girls did it.
We did it,
Right. And
Amazing.
And I think, what was really good is they obviously pulled in other colleagues when, whenever those kind of times became a little bit harder in terms of allocating time and the resource management piece. But anyway, it was done. With the last piece sort of published on the 31st December. And I think there was a kind of mini internal celebration for that. But when we really started to look at the data, and we didn't really want to look at the data until it was done. Right. And I think that's important because, the way kind of blogging and content creation works is this isn't a short-term solution to anything.
No.
Okay? And I think that's a really kind of key point that people need to almost understand, because if you kind of engage in any kind of content creation like this, it takes time. It takes time to realize, right?
Yeah.
And we knew this. And like in the past, the best articles that have performed well for us took 6 months to really find its position inside of Google, right? And then after that, that's where we've seen a real spike. And it's quite interesting whenever you kind of look at these graphs. And I'll do it this way, but basically, you launch an article and it's like this for about, the first month, 2 months, 3 months. And then you kind of get to this point where maybe 4 months in, 5 months in, there's just a massive spike.
Yeah.
And typically, what's happened at that point is like I said, Google have kind of understood what that article is.
Yeah.
Found its positioning. They've, perhaps been measuring, things like engagement of the article and stuff like that. And then bang, you literally move.
Yeah, you're the one.
10 positions, you're in position number one. And then it's very difficult for someone to move you off that, which I think is really key. So it's not a quick fix. It takes time.
No.
So the challenge is if you start to look at the data on a daily basis and obsess about that, it can be very kind of demotivating. And so we kind of said, look, we're not going to look at that data. Let's just look at it literally, first of a year onwards. So I'll talk about some sort of comparative data, and again, all of this is really interesting. And so the first bit is very much focused on our blog traffic alone. Okay. So in 2020, we had 27,761 page views on our blog.
On blogs, specifically on the Nexa blog.
Right. And these are kind of page views where we're not talking about the guys that come in 3 seconds and leave.
We're talking about actual people that have read content.
And what was, and again, I think the average kind of time that people have spend on our blog is about 3.5 minutes. So, we're talking about quality traffic.
Yeah.
So on the back of the new content being created in 2021, the 27,000 or just under 28,000 visitors increased to 46,000 visitors, just under. Yeah. Right. So significant. So you're talking about a 66% increase in traffic, organic traffic, basically, over that period.
Yeah. It's huge.
Which is huge, right? And again, when you start to kind of look at this, how much would it have cost us to generate an additional 18,000, 19,000 visits to our website? And again, in our industry, the sort of cost of that typically is about $3 to $7 per click. So the second you start doing the maths there, 20,000 people, let's say even $5 a click, you're talking about $100,000
dollars worth of traffic
that's coming. Right. And then we look at the fact that organic is better quality than
exactly.
So look, that was obviously the first kind of big sort of pat on the back in terms of great, this is really kind of significant and huge for the business. I thought there's a couple of things that were quite interesting here. Accelerated mobile pages, so AMP. So those of you who may not be familiar with AMP, this was something launched by Google a few years ago with the whole idea of stripping out some of the kind of fluffy content on a mobile device.
That's right.
Where they want the page to load
fast
within milliseconds. So you click on a link from Google and literally you're given almost like an accelerated mobile page, right, which is what it stands for. And it just loads like super fast and all the content you need is there. So what we saw kind of in line with this is the AMP page views grew by 60% as well.
Right.
Okay. So again, Google had seen that. We've got accelerated mobile pages in our blog. And they like it, and therefore they were driving more
traffic to it.
That. And I found that was kind of really interesting. One of the other things that we mentioned in terms of objectives was the time spent on each article. So, I said before, it's about 3.5 minutes to sort of 4 minutes per article in terms of how much time people spend. That increased by over a minute. So again, it wasn't just a case of traffic grew, but actually people were more
time
engaged.
spent, they're engaged. Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting metric as well. We've got some articles where people are, the average time, and we're talking thousands of people, but the average time that people have spent on some of these articles is 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 9 minutes. And so it's really interesting that if you do create that content, there are people who are out there wanting to learn, absorbing, and again, perhaps it's on mobile, because like I said, the mobile was better.
And
easier to read.
I know you guys, obviously you're currently working on that white paper and the data, but are you looking at things like, is there a association to time spent on article and article like topic? Is it that people that are kind of more engaged around social, or is it more engaged around B2B? I mean, is there any kind of metrics on that?
It's all a mix, to be honest with you.
Right. Okay.
It was it's spread. Well, I think what's interesting actually is there isn't any anomaly in that.
Right. Yeah. There's not some crazy spike somewhere.
And what we did is we also tried to increase the length of the article slightly as well.
Right. Okay.
So that,
okay,
I think that would have had a natural impact.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So more for people to read during that time, and that was obviously, as you mentioned, one of the goals.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that was cool. And then I think the other thing that I mentioned is that we didn't want to sort of compromise on what we've done previously.
No.
So the existing articles that were sort of created pre this test, we wanted to make sure that we weren't sort of cannibalizing that traffic, which was cool, and that was done as well.
Okay.
So actually, not only did we maintain the traffic on those articles, but on a lot of the articles, the actual traffic to those articles also increased.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Which is part of that sort of compounding piece.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You're creating more content, better content.
Yeah.
And then on the back of it, all of the other content
gets a lift. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So that was really kind of good and really quite strong to see. And then what we spoke about was that kind of organic traffic growth as well, like not just for blog.
No, just overall traffic growth.
Overall traffic. That had a significant impact as well. So we were 28% up on organic traffic. Bearing in mind that, less people were trapped at home than last year.
Yeah, exactly.
People out and about.
Yeah.
For that to grow to that level was huge. And again, we're talking about sort of hundreds of thousands of page views.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of our organic traffic overall. So really kind of significant. And again, I think just really kind of strong that the blog, strong sort of evidence that the blog does really kind of drive other traffic. So in terms of all the traffic metrics, all the engagement metrics, all that kind of stuff,
all up.
That was all up, which was great. And then there was a few other bits I think I wanted to share as well. But I think first and foremost, none of this stuff is really kind of relevant unless you're generating something on the back of it, right? So let's kind of move into that, the sort of metrics in terms of performance now. So things like call to actions, right? So if we've got buttons or links,
form fills, all that kind of stuff,
right? Any kind of engagement piece on those articles, for us, that's really that kind of goal. Right?
That's right, exactly.
So we want people to come onto the page, we want them to engage with the content, but ultimately what we want is for them to then do something. Right?
Exactly. It gives a call or fill out a form or drop us a WhatsApp. Yeah.
And so again, that's a kind of test of quality as well. And that was cool. So that grew. So our call to action clicks grew by 90%.
90?
Yeah. So we had more people engage. Basically, we had double the engagement.
Yeah.
Again, so that's slightly above par.
Yeah.
Because the traffic didn't double and all of that.
No, exactly. Yeah. More engagement, more people coming
through.
So
really, really kind of good from that perspective. There was some attribution that's gone directly into deals where we've closed business on the back of people finding a blog article and stuff like that as well. And then and then sort of directly linked to that is the number of leads generated.
Yeah.
Right. And again, what typically happens is people land on a blog article, then they'll kind of have a browse around the site and stuff like that. But we wanted to just look at the number of leads that were generated directly on that blog page. and we had 217.
Hmm.
But again, that was up from 104 the previous year. So again,
Right.
100% increase
100% increase.
in
Yeah.
leads.
Yeah.
And if you have a look at it from a cost per lead perspective,
Yeah.
with it being organic,
Yeah.
this kind of makes sense. And
Exactly.
it was all very good quality leads.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very few that kind of slip through the net in terms of poor quality. And then just one last piece was, we spoke about sometimes it takes, maybe 4 to 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
for articles to really find their position.
That's right. Yeah.
That changed slightly. So not significantly, but instead of sort of, that 4 to 6 months, what we did find is 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
So there was a slight shift, but that process did sort of accelerate.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And in certain articles, if we were kind of first mover on those found their positions very quickly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'd have almost like an immediate impact.
Yeah.
But some of the kind of general articles, the educational based ones and things like that, they took much less time
to index and find their feet. Okay.
Yeah. So really, I mean, like in terms of the exercise, like I said, the data is really kind of strong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It really kind of suggests that, as an approach,
yeah,
the value and significance of the businesses is just massive.
So I think I'm going to ask a question that probably our viewers and listeners would be almost screaming at the screen now, right? Or screaming at the mic. Fantastic. It clearly works. There's an impact. There's an impact on a business, an overall saving on, as you said, potentially to spend money to invest in that traffic that ultimately wouldn't convert. What now? Like, is it 800 articles? Is it like what's because I think that's the thing. Like a lot of the time we're speaking to a client this week and I'm like, oh, well, if we just double this, we get double this, right? No, it doesn't work like that. So, what is the, what does that look like now? Because we obviously in Feb, and we don't stop generally as a business. So do you want to kind of keep the guys updated now? Where are we sitting now?
Yeah, look, I think there's a couple of things. The first is we still haven't seen the full impact.
Yes, true.
Of content that we wrote in maybe October, November,
yes,
December.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, just spoken about those sort of 4 months. We're going to see the impact of those articles in the next few months and then continuously after that.
Yeah.
Right. So again, part of what we were talking about from that sort of compound marketing perspective is actually our traffic should grow this year.
Yeah.
Maybe not by sort of 66%, but our traffic will grow this year, maybe by 10 or 15%, even if we don't do anything.
Yeah. If we stopped first Jan.
We just said,
exactly.
No more content.
Yeah.
No
Thanks
more
very
articles,
much. Yeah.
Because basically all of that work we've done previously is going to keep working.
Keep running. Yeah.
Right. And we saw that because previous traffic was maintained from other articles.
Exactly.
We've now
no cannibalization.
Content, right. And so I think that's a really clear point. So the question is, do we need to continue doing this? And the answer actually is no.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because I think it gets a bit boring. It also gets a bit repetitive.
Yeah.
And there were very kind of real challenges of creating that much content.
Yeah.
So what we're doing, which is I'd say perhaps more interesting, is really kind of being more strategic now with these topic clusters and with larger sort of content pieces and pillar pages.
Yeah.
Right? Because we know that if we've got a few 100,000 people that are coming onto the website, how do we kind of keep them more engaged?
Keep them running,
right?
Yeah.
And how do we become almost like the authority on specific pieces of content, so that actually when they come onto our website, they know that they're going to get the answers.
Yeah.
Google understands that.
Exactly. Yeah.
But on the same score, it makes it very difficult for someone not to find us when they're searching for something specific and related to us. So the strategy this year isn't about creating an article every day.
No.
It's more about it's more kind of less pieces, but longer form pieces. And then coupling that with rich media. So the next sort of experiment now is, okay, if we've got an article, if we add a video next to that, where it's someone even talking about the article, is there an impact on
we'll see impact,
right? And so we're measuring a few kind of different things. I mean, the search engines themselves are very kind of, they're moving objects, right? They're moving animals.
Yeah.
There's 500 plus algorithm changes a year with Google. every now and then we get surprised. We try to kind of preempt a lot of
Yeah.
that stuff. But actually the core principles always remain the same, which is, keep creating content, make sure that you're using rich media like video and audio and all those kinds of things. And Google will show you love. And that's really what it is. So yeah, slightly different sort of set of activities this year.
Okay.
But equally interesting, because I think, again, those are very kind of measurable.
Yeah.
And we can definitely see the impact on the business. Maybe this time next year when we kind of review that.
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously it'll be interesting to see in 6 months' time where we're sitting, like you said, from a traffic perspective, because it does continue to increase in value, right? Simple as that.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. So I guess the other question that people are going to be asking is when's the white paper out? When are we looking to get this live?
Soon. So I think it's just in final kind of design stages now. So probably next sort of week, I'd say.
Excellent.
Yeah, if anyone's interested in that, make sure you just subscribe to the blog, and we'll send that out. But yeah, look, really interesting. I think it's quite rare and unique that, say, businesses of our size, normally, the likes of, say, a McKinsey or something like that, creating tons and tons of content. We obviously don't have those kinds of resources, but I think it just goes to show that with some sort of effort and focus, this is huge. And look, the actual financial impact of this on the business, just from a traffic perspective, right? So if we look at the total traffic, which increased by sort of about 10% versus the blog traffic at that 60%, we're talking about basically adding $200,000 to $300,000 worth of new traffic.
If you were going to go and spend it, exactly.
If we had to go and pay for
exactly,
it. Yeah. And I think for me, that's the biggest kind of takeaways is, if you don't have a budget of $200,000 or $300,000 to buy traffic, then your organic presence just has to be significant, and and just has to kind of really really perform.
I think the interesting thing is that when we kind of go out there and talk to clients and also prospects, it seems the amount of times I hear the phrase, "Oh, that's too much," right? Or that's too many, or that's when you're talking about generating 4 blogs a month, right? There seems almost like a reluctance to the fact that there's real value in it. There's kind of, well, why do I have to do that, right? It's kind of, and look, to be fair to some, let's say, large, very multinational enterprise organizations, it can take months to get approvals on some of the stuff, right? And again, I think that's why it's important to kind of volumize it, right? Because much better to get 20 articles approved than 1 article, right, over a 3-month period.
Yeah, do you know what? It's a really good point. I think the key to it is process, and process, and making sure that every department is aligned. Right? Everyone who has to approve something like this has to be aligned. True. They've got to understand why.
Yes.
And I think that if that education piece isn't there, then that's where you get the roadblocks and the challenges, right?
Yeah.
And we work with insurance companies. We work with, really kind of sensitive kind of areas.
Exactly.
Where the reason they have to be very careful is because, legal have to approve everything that's out there, right? So even if
that's
right. Educational, lawyers need to sign off on it.
Well, there's compliances and there's rules and there's regulations. For sure.
But again, where we've kind of found that, and I think a lot of our clients now, it's not just about sort of 4 articles. They're hiring our kind of
exactly our team.
Or maybe a part-time or even on a full-time basis.
Exactly, for some clients,
because they really get it, right? And then I think once that kind of understanding is there and they start to see results, it becomes very clear. And I think at that point, that's where people get excited, because again, I was talking to someone the other week in the industry, and they were like, it just blows my mind that I've got clients who are spending $100,000 a month on paid Google ads, and when I've suggested a $10,000 a month SEO engagement, which will reduce the reliance on 100,000 significantly, there's pushback. Whereas a Google ad is just a one-time hit. You get the click. Google don't love you anymore.
That's right.
Right. But then, and that's it, your money's gone, and potentially, and it's gone forever, right? Whereas, like I said, I think what was really interesting, the best performing article last year was a kind of almost helpful business guide for people who are kind of facing pressures during COVID, right? And that's been picked up by a whole load of other websites.
Yeah,
I think we had 4,000 or 5,000 views to that alone.
Right. Okay.
Last year, but it was designed to get business owners onto our website.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is what it's done.
Yeah.
We've spent zero money on it, and I think since that went live, that's had 11,000, 12,000 unique visitors onto the site. You know, so again, it's, you know, it's all about that sort of quality.
Exactly.
And being really kind of helpful and educational and all that.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'm excited to actually kind of dig into the white paper and looking forward to kind of seeing that. Like I mentioned there, guys, if you subscribe to our blog, you can also subscribe to kind of a whole host of other communication that we kind of fire out there. But we'll obviously make sure that you get a copy of that, obviously, in your inbox. So and we'll be obviously pushing it out on the social at that point as well. So if you're not already following us on kind of LinkedIn and some of the other preferable socials, jump on. Amit and I are getting a ton of pressure at the moment to jump on TikTok, but we'll see. I don't think we're going to have a growth show dance, so definitely not doing that. So, but anyway, let's still look at that. So I guess that brings us to the end, guys. Thank you for listening, watching, etc. Sorry about the gremlins at the beginning there. This is all just part of you know, the live environment that we quite like. It's quite exciting, and you get to see, you know, random people opening the door in the studio, which is great. So there seems to be something on a weekly basis that distracts us. But anyway, thank you for taking the time. And next week, again, we'll be back on our regular day. So back to Tuesday. We just did a bit of a shift this week, but back to Tuesday, regular day, regular time, guys. So we look forward to kind of engaging with you at that point. As always, if you need to get in touch with me or Amit, reach out to us on LinkedIn. And any kind of questions around today's show, give us a shout, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All Perfect. Right, cool. Good stuff. All right. Excellent. Thanks, guys. Catch you later. Have a great week.